Hello, welcome to the chapter 4 of the illegal arm trafficking from the US to Mexico. In the chapter, I will talk about the US laws, policies, and enforcement efforts. Firearms trafficking is a federal crime in the United States, but until recently, it was not codified as a distinct offense. Traffickers were usually charged under statutes for making false statements on gun purchases forms, smuggling under the Arms Export Control Act, or running an unlicensed firearms business. In 2022, as part of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, Congress explicitly criminalized gun trafficking and straw purchasing, imposing up to 50 years of imprisonment for those offenses. A policy change aimed squarely at the Mexico corridor. U.S. export control laws also prohibit shipping firearms abroad without a license from the state or commerce department. However, enforcement faces inherent hurdles. The U.S. does not conduct route-line inspections at the border, and the Second Amendment political climate makes regulatory fixes continuous. Uh, Federal agencies have mounted various initiatives to stem the southbound flow. The ATF's project, Gun Runner, launched in the mid of 2000, was an umbrella program focusing on traffickers along the southwest border. As part of this effort, ATF deployed more agents to border states, expanded its e-trace system to Mexican law enforcement, and coordinate with the U.S. attorneys to prosecute straw buyers. It was under the project Gun Runner that the ill-fated Operation Fast and Furious took place. In April 2021, ATF established Operation Southbound, a renewed interagency strategy to target gun running networks supplying Mexico. Under Operation Southbound, ATF works closely with Homeland Security Investigation and U.S. So, under the Operation Southbound, ATF works closely with the Homeland Security Investigation and the U.S. attorneys in border districts to identify the straw purchasing rings and the trafficking corridors. By 2023, Justice Department officials characterized Operation Southbound as a signature initiative and highlighted prosecutions like the Dallas case that nabbed seven straw buyers linked to 100 guns smuggled to Mexico. On the Department of Homeland Security side, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Protection have ramped up outbound enforcement operations. In 2020, ICE and CBP launched a joint operation to increase inspections of southbound trafficking at selected ports of entry. These pools of search operations use X-ray scanners, K9 units, and targeted intelligence to interdict weapons shipments. The results have been modest but notable. CBP historically only seized about 100 and 120 firearms per year at the border, but after upping checks, it seized 321 guns in the first 10 months of 2020, and a total of 1,392 and the southbound firearms in the year 2023. So such members are still a drop in the bucket relative to thousands of guns flowing through. Yet they demonstrate the value of the inspections. And Inspector General audit in 2023 pointed out that even though outbound checks are not mandatory, CBP's seizures of 2,306 guns in 2018 and 2022 and tens of millions in cash show how much contraband will otherwise cross unchallenged. The OG urged DHS to establish a more consistent outbound screening programs as a practice uh, varied widely by location. In response of the auditories mandatory CBF seizures, bipartisan bills have been introduced in the Congress to expand southbound screen and found bear detection technology at the border. In terms of investigation, U.S. authorities have increasingly treated major gun trafficking conspiracies as organized crime. They apply statutes like RICO, Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, to charge rings that funnel guns to cartels. They also coordinate intelligence with Mexican counterparts. For example, the ATF has agents in the U.S. Embassy in Mexico working with Mexico's Fiscalia, Attorney General Office, to trace guns and share leads. The Merida Initiative, a U.S. Mexico Security Cooperation Agreement in 2008 and 2021, provide funding and training for Mexico to interdict arms, including equipment like ion scanners, X-rays, X-ray machines at checkpoints, and dogs training to sniff out firearms. Under Merida, the U.S. also spent millions to help Mexico improve ballistic forensics and gun tracing capacity. As of 2020, the U.S. State Department reported contributing 54 million for technology and training to counter arms trafficking. Despite these efforts, assessments have found that the U.S. agencies still lack performance measures to success in stopping gun smuggling. While enforcement has improved with more operations, better tracing, and new laws against extravagant, the overall effectiveness is limited. Traffickers continue to exploit regularity gaps, and U.S. agencies themselves acknowledge they cannot yet quantify a reduction in guns to Mexico. Mexican laws and restrictions are among the strictest in the hemisphere since 1972. All legal firearm sales in Mexico must go through a single store in Mexico City that is run by the army, and private ownership is highly restricted. Small caliber guns only with arduous paperwork. So it's effectively impossible for the average Mexican citizen to legally obtain weapons. All the assault rifles, sniper rifles, and machine guns wielded by cartels are illicit. Possession of military grade firearms in Mexico is a serious felony, and the government routinely mounts operations to seize weapons from criminal groups. The Mexican Army Sedena has a specialized role in this fight. It not only runs the Sol gun store but also leads weapons confiscation efforts. Between 2010 and 2023, Sedena recovered over 130,000 illicit firearms from organized crime organized crime through raids and checkpoints. Despite these seizures, the flood from the north has continued to replace the arsenals of cartels amongst as fast as they are depleted. Mexican authorities have tried multiple strategies to curb the influx. Border customs officials conduct southbound inspections at major crossings, mirroring the U.S. outbound operations, but are often undemanded or under the equipped. Mexico has installed some vehicle X-ray scanners at northern points of entry and periodically runs roadblocks in border zones to catch gun shipments. For instance, Mexico's National Guard has stopped trucks carrying dozens of smuggled rifles and crates of ammunition headed to cartel territories. However, corruption and intimidation can hamper enforcement. There have been cases of Mexican officials colluding with smugglers or simply being outgunned and forced to retreat. One of the Mexico's responses has been to push the United States diplomatically and legally. Mexico's government has publicly exhorted the U.S. to strengthen gun control and stop the Iron River, often noting the irony that the U.S. urged Mexico to halt drugs and northward while not doing enough to halt guns southward. Under President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, Mexico took the unprecedented step of filing lawsuits in the U.S. courts against the American gun industry. In 2021, Mexico sued 11 major U.S. firearm manufacturers, in, including Smith and Wesson, Colt, Glock, and Barrett, for 10 billion, alleging that their negligent business practices facilitate trafficking that wreaking havoc in Mexico. That suit was dismissed due to the U.S. PLCAA law, which shields gun companies from liability, and the U.S. Supreme Court in 2023 declined to revive it. Nonetheless, Mexico pressed on with the second lawsuit in Arizona, targeting five specific gun dealers who were top sources of cartel weapons. In March of 2024, U.S. federal court ruled that Mexico claims against those dealers for negligence and violations of Arizona law could proceed, and an initial victory for Mexico's novel legal approach. Uh, Mexican officials hope these suits bring accountability and force U.S. sellers to implement tighter safeguards against straw buyers. On the cooperation front, Mexico has increased its use of ATF's e-trace system to track guns. The Mexican Attorney General Office submits tens of thousands of trace requests to ATF each year, 100,048 traces for 2021 and 2023 alone. This data sharing helps map trafficking networks and identify source dealers. Mexico and the US also revived a bilateral firearms trafficking working group under which agents meet to exchange intelligence on active smuggling rings. Mexican foreign ministry officials have openly credited to the US DOJ for finally acknowledging the severity of the arms flow um, in recent reports.